What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, hosted the Behind the Bench podcast networking channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew. Shy, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel, help make the show the best that it can be. I wanted to drop this one real quick, man. This is another golden nugget. Another golden nugget. I have to share it with basketball fans and fans of the famed Laker Nation. Now, let's get down to the bare knuckles of things, man. Because, let's see, this is 2025. This is the 7th year of having the Hurricane on the team. And we were told that when this started that it was going to be championship or bust scenario where just about every season you can book the Lakers to pretty much go to the finals. Or let me just say, in year one, he was predicted to lead them to the Western Conference Finals. And we all know how that panned out. It didn't pan. They finished with a record of 37-45, only 2 games more than what the young core Lakers achieved in 2018, as they improved 20 games in the previous 2 seasons. They went from 16 wins to 35 wins in the Western Conference, with prime Golden State, with prime KD, San Antonio Spurs with Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Houston Rockets with prime James Harden, MVP, and Chris Paul. Along with OKC, by the way. Denver was balling too. So we were told, man, that we were being made relevant again. But the thing is, just because you're having a down period, that doesn't mean that you're not relevant. You was relevant when you started all over again, and you was improving, and you was competing, and fans were getting excited about the future. That's true relevancy. When you're dictating the direction of the franchise. But when you look at the numbers, man, the sheer numbers since all this went down, since all this started. Now, this is a recent update that represents what this team's record is, I would say, as of the new year, from the point when all this started up until the new year. And it should be titled The Era of Mediocrity, since the Hurricane was brought here. Outside of that 1 year that culminated in the bubble, and I get it, you can't control a pandemic from threatening society. I get that. If you really think about it, the year of 2019-2020, the Lakers started off with a 22-3 record, man. Although they had the easiest first half schedule of any Western Conference contender that season, they kind of tapered off right before the season was shut down due to the pandemic, the COVID. They were slowing down. I believe age was starting to kick in because they were already the oldest team in the league. Even with Anthony Davis on the roster, even with Kyle Kuzma, even with Alex Caruso, they were the oldest team in the NBA. With the Hurricane, Danny Green was an age player, Avery Bradley was an age player, JaVale McGee, although he played hard, but he played backup minutes, and Dwight Howard, who was about 35, somewhere around there, 35. But even though he was starting, he would only play about 17 and a half minutes a game. And then later on that season, they brought Jared Dudley, who was past his prime, And then they brought in J.R. Smith and then Deion Waiters towards the end of the season and whatnot. And they were age players. And then Rondo, right after that season, from that point on, the age and the attrition kicked in. He wasn't the same player no more. And even then, they had to bring him off the bench. So what I'm saying is, man, when you look at this, this shows you there's no way in the world, if we had kept our real team and built them up, let them grow and mature and develop their chemistry amongst each other. You know what I'm saying? That's vital in basketball. A lot of a team's success is based on chemistry. There's no way in the world they would have this mark right here I'm about to read out. Now, it says since LeBron was brought to the Lakers, their record is 123 wins and 175 losses versus teams that are 500 or better. A losing percentage of 41%. Going into this week, their record is 11-17 versus teams 500 or greater. And only once in the Hurricanes' tenure have they been plus 500 versus such teams. And I guarantee you that was the year where they threw all the chips in the middle of the table for 2019-2020. I guarantee you that's the year. I guarantee you. Since then, they are below 500 versus winning teams. And I guarantee you that's primarily versus Western Conference opponents. This is why they're having trouble getting beyond the play-in bracket of the Western Conference. Year one, no playoffs. Year two, okay, you won, but you won in a bubble. Year three, you got eliminated in the first round. Now, people would say, well, Anthony Davis was hurt, but Chris Paul was hurt too in that series. He missed like 2 games from a shoulder injury. But even then, going into that series, I felt Phoenix was going to win because, to me, they had a better chemistry. They had better chemistry. And Chris Paul knew how to lead their team. And they eventually went on to play Milwaukee in the finals, which that was a great finals. I enjoyed watching this series. I really, really did. 2022. They not only did they not make the playoffs, they didn't even make the play-in. They finished with 33 wins. And then the following year, they was on their way to missing the playoffs for the second straight year. But then they was the quote-unquote benefactor of a total overhaul of a roster. Half the roster was turned over. And they got an infusion of young players. And they gave them a boost, and they got a temporary edge versus the competition, and then they ran to Denver, and we all knew how that worked out. And then last year, they had to get through the play-in again, although they won 47 games. But if you look at their schedule, they had a month-long homestand, and then they had another three-week homestand where they was able to really settle in and win a lot of games. But they still got eliminated in the first round. So the trend is basically outside of that 1 year, they are essentially a 500 basketball team. They're essentially a 500 basketball team, especially when they start playing the top teams. You see what I'm saying? And now that teams or like the Houstons have improved, they taking a tremendous jump. Last year, they was playing great basketball. They was like the hottest team starting out after the All-Star break, a month after the All-Star break, and then Alperen Sengun, their center, suffered a knee injury, missed the rest of the season, and then they tailed off. Otherwise, it's a good chance they could have made the playoffs, or at least been a higher seed in the play-in to get to the playoffs. But they're in second place. Memphis is relatively healthy. They're in third place. So the challenge that the Lakers are facing is It's not saying that OKC is a lock to win the championship, although they have a tremendous future for themselves. It's not saying Houston is a lock. It's not saying Memphis is a lock. But the problem is more and more teams that are improving that's making it difficult for the Lakers to make the playoffs outright. Thus, constant pressure for them to make changes, overhaul the roster. But it doesn't guarantee anything when you look at this record. And this is a direct result of casting out your real players. There's no way in the world that young core with the right star player would have a mediocre record like this. Would they have won a championship in 2020? No, they would not have. But they would have been developing in the right manner. See, to me, 2020 was more like I don't want to say fool's gold, but I think it has a lot of fans misled into thinking that this was the proper way, because this has never been done before. We've never seen a team mortgage themselves off to this degree, ever. Now, Phoenix is doing it to a lesser extent. Philadelphia, they kind of win now when they brought in James Harden per se. But that was only after Ben Simmons was missing, significant time due to a supposed back injury. But at the end of in the Clippers, they gave up a lot of draft picks and a young Shea to bring in Paul George. And they didn't win a championship, but they've had more regular season success than the Lakers have had in comparison. Because the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis and the Clippers traded for Paul George during the same offseason. So what I'm saying is, man, when I look at it, you look at Denver right now. They on the roll now. They back on track, and they looking a lot like they did in 2023 when they won the championship. So what I'm trying to say is, man, to essentially be a 500 team, and this is if you include the 1 year that you won in the bubble. If you take that season out the equation, they're below 500. If you take that season out the equation, this team is below 500. Essentially. That's what this is saying. So I just want to drop that real quick. I'm going to read this again. Since the Hurricane arrival to the Lakers, they are 123 and 175 versus teams 500 and better. A losing percentage of 41%. This year, currently, they are 11 and 17 versus 500 or greater teams. That's a 39% losing percentage. That means what that means right there. Realistically, they're not even a contender. When they say championship or bust, well, you would like to think that you have a team that can legitimately compete for a championship. But when you see this record right here, it's all smoke and mirrors. This is why trades are constantly being called for. You see, and why these moves really don't stick for long. On average, these players are, players that they sign as free agents. On average, they last in like a season and a half before they included to set up more trades. So what this record tells me is, man, outside of that 1 year, because even that team had aged out. That's why they had to overhaul that roster. Because they knew that roster wasn't going to hold up. So the way I look at it is, man, outside that 1 year, it's all smoke and mirrors. This team has not been championship contending caliber. It's all smoke and mirrors. And that's why I hope after this year, man, they can't give up no more assets to try to bring in. Ain't no big time superstars out there anyway. Probably the most talented player right now, realistically, to trade for, if you're talking about the top three players, and I'm just saying their names randomly. Zach LaVine, he's not a superstar, right? Brandon Ingram, who they traded 5 years ago to bring in Anthony Davis. Does he really want to come back? And then Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's 35 years old. He's an older player. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, man, when you look at this, the gig's been up. This team is 500. We could have been 500 on our own. I mean, if we want to go this route and just, think about this, man. All this hype every year. Oh man, you go into the season. Oh, we the prohibitive favorite to win it all, but you're sub 500 versus winning teams. It's all hype. It's all smoke and mirrors. You got two superstars on this team. They can't win 50 games. Do they look like they gonna win 50 games this year? And the schedule's really gonna start ramping up in the next week or so. Yeah, I mean, the gig has been up since 2020. It's been up since 2020, since the bubble. They are below 500 versus winning teams. Versus 5 teams above 500. That means, man, they're not a contender. That's what that means. So I just want to show that real quick, man. Gig been up. The Lakers need to get control of their franchise back, man. And the next time, which they're gonna have to build. The next time they're gonna have to build, man. They're gonna have to stick with it, because the new CBA that's in effect, you're not gonna be able to, and actually it's good. It's a good measure for teams, because now they're gonna have to truly build. You know what I'm saying? Instead of giving up 6-7 years worth of draft picks to bring in, a star player, that's not working no more. It's not working no more. So I just want to, hey man, this mediocrity right here at its finest. But I just want to drop that nugget real quick. Until next time, JB, BTB, behind the bench.